Hi. We probably wonder how I got here. It's like you probably wonder how I got in this situation. But no, long story short, I had to run downstairs. There was something serious going. It was something crazy going on. Long story short, there. Oh, I can't show you the camera, but there's a camera down there. We got my dog. Well, but outside of that, but nah, I didn't get kicked. I had to actually cancel it myself because I was like I couldn't just leave and then have it just pretty much sitting here, and then especially with dogs barking and whatnot, I would just much rather cancel the stream and dip, and get everything together. But no, I do have a camera right here. It's pretty much showing me the backyard, the front yard, and everything else. And I just see a dog just book it, just pretty much bolt. And so I was like, oh, okay, I gotta go. I gotta slide out real fast. But I was talking about Roman Reigns, and I really wanted to get into this Roman Reigns is not the GOAT situation because let's look at it. Let's get into stats. Here's where we got to get into the facts here. Let's share this. Let's share this and let's get active. First off, where my sound effects at? Let me get my sound effects back because I do want to try this again one time for the one time. I promise I'm gonna get it right. Because I promise I'm gonna get it right. But going on to share my screen here, Roman Reigns matches throughout the year. As I talk about him not really being there, him not being an active champion when all he was doing around what I want to say maybe this time. Around this time, let's go this time. Around this time, we started seeing him complain about champions not showing up to work, wrestlers not being available, wrestlers not showing up to work and not wrestling for the fans that they promised that they were going to do for their entire career. Because before John Cena, it was The Rock. Before The Rock, it was Hulk Hogan. It's like before Hulk Hogan. We could go on all day, but it's just like, I mean, I gotta stop there. But it's just like, you get to 2020 to in 2019, of course, that's when we started seeing 2019 to 2020 is when, of course, we see the hiatus from Roman. But 2021, let's go 2021, 2024. Brother, you still had 61 matches, 52 matches, where in those 52 matches, okay, 36 wins. I want to know what those 16 losses is, because it definitely never felt like it at all. At all. And so, yeah, he was shout out to C Fluid. That was the last thing I saw before I dipped. Also, Roman had his whole family assisting him in just about every match. Yes, you saw the hoods. It was the hoods. Of course, it was Jay. Then it was Jimmy. Then it was Jay again. And then it just happened to be Sammy. And then it's just like everybody just had to come out with a hood and pop out just to show that they were loyal to Roman and they were going to keep the bloodline going. And just it became annoying. It became very, and I know I always use this term a lot, but Death Rider-ish, in just terms of, I think Death Rider-ish is the perfect way to describe just seeing a reign, especially a title reign, seeing a reign or seeing a run that is just going on for far too long and nobody is interested in it whatsoever. I mean, I've been to 2 AEW events where at the very end of it, the Death Riders pretty much beat down on their dead opponent who they already murdered in the ring. And everybody's just booing. Everybody's hitting the exits. We're all leaving because we know nobody's going to save them. Then we know this is how this pay-per-view is going to end. And that's exactly how it was with Roman Reigns matches. Roman Reigns is going to beat you down. Roman Reigns is going to talk to the camera for 5 minutes. Okay, you're going to get your probably 5 to 6 minutes of shine beating down Roman. Then, of course, Superman punch, spear, maybe he'll choke you out. Goodbye. Get to the back of the line. Get to the back of the line. Okay. Now, if that's not enough, if that isn't enough, let's go on to Roman Reigns title defenses, because that's one thing that I really, really love to see, because the only person I saw in there was Kevin Owens. If I'm gonna be honest with you, I saw so much of Roman Reigns taking on Kevin Owens, and this is even before, after he pretty much had him explode through his golf cart. Just insane situations where Roman Reigns, it was just getting annoying. It was getting annoying in more ways than one. And this is why I really don't have Roman Reigns as my GOAT here, because I don't think there's been a whole lot of moments where we had opportunities to say, oh, Roman Reigns is definitely going to lose this one. You know, I think the biggest one was the Clash at the Castle with the Drew McIntyre taking on Roman Reigns, and we were like, okay, this might be the time. This might be it. You know, we are ready. We're about to get active here, and it doesn't happen. It doesn't come to fruition. Huge shout outs for Spam for TikTok. Facts. Are you real? are you real, sir? This is the name just kind of, as soon as it says spam, the first thing I saw. Are you real, sir? But I'm gonna agree. Look, you said facts. We gonna say facts here. That's facts, 100%, 100%. But let's go into Roman Reigns. Let's go into Roman Reigns' second reign as well to see what we have here. Yeah, I'm real. Okay, appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. Thank you for joining in. I was just like spam. As soon as the first thing I saw, I was like, okay, we got to look at this real fast. We got to do some investigating. But of course, first one we see Jey Uso Clash of Champions 2020 singles match. I loved everything that Roman Reigns and Jey Uso did until, you know, they started turning and then turning back and then turning right back around and then facing each other and then turning right back. You know, it just got annoying. That is what it got a little irritating. But of course, Braun Strowman, you kind of figured Roman Reigns wasn't going to lose to Braun Strowman because this was an upgrade. This is a Roman Reigns upgrade. This is Roman Reigns 2.0. You know, I don't even think he was a tribal chief at this time. We just knew him as Roman Reigns, the heel, and we were just happy that he was healing around the place. Until you touch on Kevin Owens, then Kevin Owens, and then Kevin Owens. 3 straight times we got Kevin Owens, last man standing, steel cage, tables, ladders, and chairs. And we, at least with the first 2, we already knew Kevin Owens wasn't going to win. I at least had a little bit of hope that Kevin Owens was going to win the last man standing match. And of course, that didn't come to fruition. C. Fluid says, Drew or LA Knight should have been the ones, no pun intended, to have defeated Roman. And that's the thing. I don't even think LA Knight should have beat him. I think Drew should have beat him. I thought that would have been the biggest trophy, you know, you could put on Drew McIntyre, or the biggest achievement you could throw on Drew McIntyre, because you already eliminated Brock Lesnar out of the Royal Rumble. You already beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. Roman Reigns is next man up. Roman Reigns is the big dog here. You get rid of him, you're not even taking it serious. You're taking overly seriously. You're taking over in Roman Reigns, of course, he can get the title back. That's no problem at all. But then, of course, you run into, just imagine having that title on you. Roman Reigns lost to Drew McIntyre. And then, of course, we're getting this huge feud, this huge rivalry between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. And CM Punk comes out of that the victor. CM Roman Reigns owes you a favor. You know, it's just like, and now we're digging more. We're just digging. Now that, of course, we're just fantasy booking and all that. But honestly, I just think that would have worked a whole lot better if Drew McIntyre would have just did it all. Roman Reigns had an extensive title run at that time already. Because even in saying that, of course, the title reign started at Payback 2020. Of course, as we mentioned before, he defeated Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman in a triple threat match. Roman Reigns has defended his title 30 times during this title reign, and he's defeated several former champions like Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Daniel Bryan, Edge, Kevin Owens, Rey Mysterio, Finn Balor, Goldberg, and Drew McIntyre. I should not be able to read that and not be impressed, right? Now, Brock Lesnar, okay, that's cool. I mean, what'd I do? Okay, I did something. Okay, let me go back. Yeah, like Brock Lesnar, that's cool. Like this is still, you know, OG Brock Lesnar. This is still a Brock Lesnar that we all should be scared of. This is John Cena coming back from movies. This is Daniel Bryan coming back from his injury. You know, this is far removed from a champion. You know, this is him coming off of a Kofi Kingston, Kofi Kingston rivalry, you know, when he just lost his belt at WrestleMania. No, this is Daniel Bryan, who has one foot out the door. This is Edge, who is coming back from an injury, and we still have zero expectations on the man. This is Rey Mysterio, who is Rey Mysterio. You know, let's be honest, Rey Mysterio fighting against Roman Reigns. And that's a huge shout out to Spam for TikTok. Look, Rey Mysterio is my favorite WWE wrestler, and that's the thing. Rey Mysterio is amazing, but Rey Mysterio touching 50, going up against Roman Reigns, who was in his prime at the time, is something that I just didn't need. And then, of course, Roman Reigns was just bullying Dominic at the time. It didn't take until Rhea Ripley had to pretty much suffocate him with her legs for him to pretty much come to his senses and say, you know what? my dad's a deadbeat. You know, it's just like, you know what, I hate my father. And it all he took for Rhea Ripley to choke me. You know, it's just like, that's how, you know, it's crazy how we come to those realizations. You know, it's just like, but then you have Finn Balor, who pretty much had to revive himself, you know, for those that remember, when he turned into the demon, and you know, he died in the he died in the middle of the match, and then of course the lights went out, and you know, he started pretty much his body started gyrating. He rose back up, and then God was just like, "Oh no, we got to stop this." God said, "We got to stop this now." Turnbuckle broke. Roman Reigns pretty much had to end it there. Stupid. Goldberg, come on now, don't do this. Like, come on now, this is Goldberg. If it said Goldberg were to beat Roman, then we have even bigger problems. When Goldberg beat Brock Lesnar, I was a college student, and I remember wearing the Brock Lesnar shirt. I threw it right in the trash. I was like, this is stupid. I was like, this is stupid. I was like, why do I still watch wrestling? That was going through my head at the time. But of course, we do have Drew McIntyre, who we all agreed. It's a huge shout out to Spam Forum TikTok as well. He also says that I thought the same with Drew McIntyre, but yes, Drew McIntyre should have gotten the win over Roman Reigns. That reign should have ended right there. And if you wanted to give Roman the title back, yes, because you still have your title reign days accumulated. You know what? Having the days consecutively is awesome. I will give him that. That's amazing, incredible. But you're still gonna have your title reign days on top of that. So even if you were champion for like CM Punk 435 days, if you were to get that same title back, okay, let's run it up. Like, you know, let's run it up. I have been a WWE champion for when I've been in this company for 669 days. You haven't been a champion for a day and a half. You know, like the trash talk you could get from that. And yet with Roman Reigns, there is no trash talk, because all he got was pretty much retired vets, Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre, and that's it. He got Kevin Owens, like 3 to 5 times in that rivalry. It was stale, and we knew for a fact Kevin Owens wasn't winning. And every time Kevin Owens had the match against Roman, somebody was interfering. It was always a cousin. That's why Kevin Owens snapped on Randy Orton. That's why Kevin Owens snapped on Sami Zayn. Y'all over here protecting Roman Reigns when he was just bullying me this whole time. Bullying me. And his cousins were there to help him. Sammy was also there to help him. You know, it's just like, come on now. Like, so, and just looking at this title reign here, Daniel Bryan and Edge, where he stacked them. That one I actually kind of liked. I ain't gonna lie. That was a WrestleMania. That was mainly because I think that was when we got the fans back. I think that was probably why. But you got Daniel Bryan Elimination Chamber, Daniel Bryan at Fastlane. Like, we know Roman Reigns ain't. We know Daniel Bryan right now at this point in time in his career is not beating Roman Reigns. It's not beating Roman Reigns. I can't even remember how the match was like. Roman Reigns is not putting together 5-star matches. Like I said, I will give you Daniel Bryan and Edge, WrestleMania 37 Night 2 was a really good match. Outside of Jey Uso, and the last man standing match that Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns had, right now, I'm not seeing a whole lot of good matches. This is, I think, Daniel Bryan's last match. Yeah, Daniel Bryan's career on the line. And then he turns to Bryan Danielson. You had Cesaro at WrestleMania Backlash, which Cesaro, I think he had a really good outing, but come on now. Let's be honest. Like, Cesaro versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania Backlash main event. Come on now. You're looking at that match card like, okay, we're going to watch it because we know Cesaro's a really good performer. Like, but we know Cesaro ain't winning. We know Cesaro ain't finna win. He ain't finna walk out as champion or nothing of the sort at all. Huge shout out to Spam Forum TikTok. Do you think that Ray versus Eddie, who do you think should have won? Oh man, I did a True Colors. That's pretty much a small show that we doing here where we go through the rivalries. That was actually the first episode we did, and the only episode we did for now. But I loved every bit of it. And yes, Rey Mysterio was beating the brakes out of it. Well, Eddie Guerrero was beating the brakes off of Rey Mysterio. He just couldn't finish the job. He just couldn't win the match at all. It was always a Hurricane Rana. It was always a 619. It was always a ladder match for the custody of a kid. You know, that was always in Eddie's way. You know, that was always to Eddie's detriment. He lost to a Hurricane Rana off Rey Mysterio twice. You know, and it took for him to get into a steel cage match with Rey Mysterio. To miss a crossbody, just completely splat on the mat. Eddie was about to walk out of the cage, and he was just like, I gotta beat this man. Like, no. He was like, I'm not gonna win like this. See, I'm gonna hit you with a frog splash, pin you to 3, and I'm gonna tell the world I beat you. You know, it's just like I'm gonna tell everybody I beat you. And that's what we're gonna do here. Shout out to C Fluid. Did you know that Eddie's older daughter does a topless show in Chicago? See, now why would you tell me that? Why would you tell me that? Because that's not something that I don't think I would want to know. That's not something that I'm certainly not looking up right now. And it's not something I'm gonna. I ain't going to it. You ain't gonna make me. Nope. Nope. It's not something that I'm not going to because I'm looking it up. I'm actually looking it up to avoid going there. You know, that's actually the biggest thing of it all. I'm trying to look it up to find the destination so I can see where not to go because I'm just so disgusted by the thought of, you know, Eddie Guerrero's daughter of, you know, not being in the wrestling industry. You know, I would love to see her wrestling, and I mean, you know, wrestling industry, WWE, AEW, you know, just to keep it, you know, 100%, you know, but that's just how it is. Oh, Kayla, what's good, Kayla? Hey, how you living? How are you living? C Fluid says she's part of this dance group. Again, I'm going to avoid it. I'm going to avoid that area. That area is, I heard is you know, it's a bad area. It's probably a bad neighborhood, you know, and whatnot. No, she's not a stripper. Okay, cool. I'm glad that she is, you know, and I just, like I said, I just wanted to see her in the wrestling business. You know, I feel like she could be, I mean, Vicky Guerrero, I'm pretty sure the last thing she thought she was going to be was contracted with WWE and be a general manager, you know, no less, even after, you know, Eddie Guerrero was passing. I don't think she thought that this was going to, you know, being a huge thing of itself. It's a classy type of thing. How do you know this, C Floyd? How do you know this? How do you know this? Where's your sources? Where's your sources? How do you know this, brother? How do you know this? Ooh, about to get ready for the cross episode. It's at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern Central on Circle of Debate. Look, slide over there, Circle of Debate. It is too much fun. And of course, Kayla is a whole lot of fun as well. She'll get you laughing. She'll get you going. And of course, just looking at it, Circle of Debate is just always friendly. It's always nice. Look, we was just there yesterday. And we had too much fun. It's like, as soon as your camera comes on and you're in the Circle of Debate room, it's like it just feels like a big old hug. You know, it just feels like a big old hug just being wrapped around you because the people there are just too nice. They're highly entertaining, and of course, Kayla is one of them. So go over there at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern Central, and Circle of Debate. I promise you will not be disappointed. Kayla gonna hook you up. Kayla is gonna hook you up as she usually do. Man, look at that. Edge, Money in the Bank singles match. Don't care for it. Rey Mysterio, Hell in a Cell match. Don't care for it. These are all dubs. Can you look at these 4 names? And I'm talking about Daniel Bryan 2020. I'm not talking about Bryan Danielson AEW when, you know, he finally started getting some traction and we finally started seeing some, you know, highly competitive and, you know, brutal and gritty matches from him, but we're getting WWE form Daniel Bryan in 2021, Cesaro, Rey Mysterio, and Edge. Like, come on now, those 4 right there. Burlesque is what it's called. Ooh, okay, burlesque. I like that. I like that. I am going to. You know what? I'm not gonna. You know what? I'm. You know what? Sure. Also, I've seen this before. Okay, I know what you're talking about. So I'm thinking it's like I'm thinking it's something like absolutely crazy. Okay, cool. Okay, yeah, then that's not bad. that's not bad. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, dead serious. It's definitely no stripper type of crap. Okay, cool. Okay, I won't try to avoid it, but I don't know if I'd go there though. Once I looked it up and I did see the pictures, it makes sense now. I definitely know what you're talking about now. It is definitely it's friendly. It's 100% friendly. But I mean, I'm pretty sure she got moves. I wouldn't put it against her to not be a solid dancer. Because Eddie showed that he had some solid moves, at least from what we saw, the smidge of dancing that we saw him do with when he was Mr. Latino Heat, and of course when he was with China and whatnot. You know, Eddie Guerrero, he had some moves. I wouldn't be shocked if his daughter did too as well. Finn Balor, come on now. Finn Balor Demon, come on now. Of course, you have Brock Lesnar, where you actually thought a little bit, some things might be changing, but even then, you didn't want it to change because look, even though Roman Reigns is a heel, even though Roman Reigns was still a heel at this time, Brock Lesnar still coming through as a babyface. You didn't want Brock Lesnar winning. You still didn't want Brock Lesnar carrying this title around. That's where it gets a little bit annoying. This was a good match. This was a really good match. Seth Rollins lost via DQ. Seth Rollins was getting in the head of Roman Reigns. Just calling them baby. Well, they were going back and forth calling each other baby brother, but big brother, whatnot. He comes out with the Shield outfit. Seth Rollins does, just playing mind games with Roman Reigns, and then he just pretty much obliterates him with a chair. Roman Reigns does, just gets him out of here, and Seth Rollins never gets to get back for it. But just look at that. Look at this. Until we get to Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 40, when April 67, yeah, of course we get there. But no, like I'm sorry. I feel like that's just a load of garbage. A load of garbage. Because you have Cody Rhodes, WrestleMania 39, of course, singles match. Nothing. Just absolutely nothing. So in WrestleMania 38 Night 2, he beat Brock Lesnar April 3rd, 2022. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's not too bad. 7 title defenses before he gets to the next WrestleMania. That's not bad. That I can't frown upon. This one I can. Cody Rhodes in April 2nd, 2023. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 title defenses. 3 title defenses, I guess you could say, before you get to the your next WrestleMania. Jey Uso, LA Knight, Fatal 4-Way match, Cody Rhodes again. We barely saw you, my brother. And only on top of that, like I said, the matches were boring. Can anybody tell me out of these matches that I just explained, that any of these matches that we just went through, are we seeing classics? Are we seeing anything that is showing us how great Roman is in any way, shape, or form? Like, and that's the thing when we talk about greatness. Roman Reigns has had some solid promos, his missionary promos, where he's talking about, I'm sick of, smashing these. I'm sick of smashing these guys. I'm smashing. Like he had his funny moments, and of course he can be entertaining. But outside of just being happy that he turned heel, it's kind of like the John Cena effect. I feel like he's had that John Cena effect. I can get out of this now. I feel like he's definitely had that John Cena effect, where as soon as John Cena turned heel, we loved it. We were blinded for a split second. At least I was blinded. We were just happy that John Cena was heel. Just happy with what we were seeing with John Cena. And then, of course, once the rose shaded glasses were taken off, and we saw what was really happening, that John Cena was putting together boring matches, and there was no substance to his heel turn until we finally get to his babyface turn, until we finally get the turn that we were waiting for. And then he drops the title to Cody Rhodes, of course, and Brock Lesnar shows up. I just don't necessarily see the huge impact with Roman Reigns. Now, holding the title for that long, I do think it's impressive, but I won't necessarily say it's all fan, like it's all pretty much what's the word? Industry plant-ish. Like, because everybody got to talk about, well, he was Vince McMahon's guy. He was Vince McMahon's boy. But so was John Cena's. He loves Hulk Hogan. Vince McMahon loved some Hulk Hogan. Vince McMahon loved a lot of guys. And he was going to put them in that position to make them great, which is what you should do when you see greatness, and it is what it is. But it's just the fact that with Roman, John Cena preached it, and yet he still is showing up. He's not showing up, taking the title and leaving. He didn't show up now. Just recently, he was like, "Hey, I'm retiring. I'm finna go on a run," but it wasn't like a Rock where, okay, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna win this title, and then I'm gonna show up via Skype for the next 3 weeks. No, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like a Brock Lesnar where it was just like, oh, I'm not gonna say a word to anybody. I'm just gonna leave. I'm just gonna take this title and we're gonna be in the Saskatchewan living our best life. Roman Reigns did the exact same thing that those two guys did. And that's why I always talk about John Cena and why I give John Cena more so the benefit of the doubt, because at least John Cena was here. John Cena was here. And not only was he here, when he did show up, he was putting guys over. Roman Reigns, I can't think of anybody. Who was getting put over in these situations. Who was getting put over in these situations? LA Knight didn't gain anything. Who gained from going up against Roman? Okay, I can tell you who. His family. You know what I'm saying? I can tell you who. His family and Jey Uso, his family and Jimmy Uso as well. They gained a whole lot. And so that's one of the things that's annoying the most. Who has Roman Reigns helped? We could talk about the Roman Reigns greatness and whatnot, but who has he helped? Who has he beat? And because all I'm looking at is a bunch of washed up guys and Kevin Owens and Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre, who should have won. LA Knight, who I don't think should have won, but we kind of already look. The writing was on the wall. We kind of already know what was happening. You know, it's just like I think he was gonna lose. Definitely thought he was gonna lose in that situation there. But let's not take it from me. Let's actually read some comments, at least from Cage Seats, because I definitely think that hearing other people's take on it as well, I think is important too. She has been married to a TNA announcer for a minute now. Oh, okay. So I'm glad that she's actually. I won't necessarily say I'm glad that she's finally happy. I won't necessarily say that because I think she's always been happy. But I'm glad that she's, living her best life, because I did see that. I don't know if this was this daughter, but I did see that there was a back and forth between Vicky Guerrero and her daughter. So hopefully things are on the up and up, with the family at least. LA Knight lost his momentum after wrestling Roman. That's the thing. Yeah, who has gained after wrestling Roman? I can't think of I can't think of any point in time where I can call Roman Reigns the GOAT. I can say that he had a nice run. He had an amazing run. Is he great? Yeah, he's great. When he retires, I'll say put him in the Hall of Fame, first ballot. Yes. GOAT? No, I wouldn't even necessarily go that far. I won't necessarily go that far because John Cena didn't need, John Cena didn't need a manager at that point in time. John Cena didn't need a manager. And even when they were booing him, he still fed into the boos. I'm ECW, the one night stand in 05, I believe, him against RVD. I'm gonna keep throwing this shirt until somebody will take this. I'm gonna just keep throwing this shirt around. I'm gonna just keep feeding into this crowd. I know they hate me, but hey, I'm a baby face. Let me just, let me shimmy with this 5-knuckle shuffle. Let me dance on them real fast. Like John Cena has swag to him, and Roman Reigns does too. Roman Reigns didn't lock in on it until, of course, we saw him as the tribal chief. And then, of course, OTC. The bloodline stuff was awesome. When there was turmoil in the family, that's when it was entertaining. Once you branched out, no substance at all. And I can't, like I said, outside of Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns in that match, I can't think of a great match that we have that we could put up there and say, oh, man, yeah, that current run that we saw from Roman, excuse me, that we needed that match. We needed that run for a moment, and that pretty much set the tone for his reign there alone. No, what most of the matches that Roman Reigns was wrestling in, we knew the outcome. We knew we knew what was going on in the situation. That was the younger daughter. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was like, I knew there was. I know there's multiple children there. Yeah, supposedly Vicky's current husband inappropriately touched her. Yeah, I heard it was like really, really messy there. So I'm really, really hoping that that's cleaned up in itself, which I don't think it is. Because every time you see Vicky Guerrero on WWE, when in her appearances on camera, that's the first thing they bring up. Oh, well, her daughter. Which, I'm getting tired of it. I'm just getting tired. I'm getting tired of it with who did I just mention earlier? Who did I just mention earlier? Just talking about Brock Lesnar. Yeah, people censor and Brock Lesnar name BR asterisk CK. We don't talk about Brock Lesnar anymore. Like, why are we censoring this dude? It is not that deep. Like, I promise you, it is not that deep. Like, look, it's bad. It's an awful situation, but we are not in this at all. We are not involved in this whatsoever. Now, if this was going on as, he put hands on somebody, or he put hands on somebody, then okay, I would take this totally differently. And there was a whole lot riding on it. There was a whole lot more evidence and proof towards it. Then yeah, I would go absolutely ballistic. Yeah, why is Brock Lesnar still here? This is nasty. Do I think Brock Lesnar should be wrestling still? No. I wouldn't have him out there for the situation that I'm talking about now. And the reaction that other people are giving out now is one of the reasons why I wouldn't do it. But yeah, you see Vicky Guerrero. Oh, well, her daughter. Her daughter. Brock Lesnar. There was actually a girl on social media when Triple H posted the picture with AJ Lee, and the lady retweeted it, and she was just like, I just can't believe that AJ Lee is wrestling for a company that wants to defund education. What? I missed that tweet. I missed that WWE tweet. Yeah, we want to actually defund education. We want our kids to be stupider. It's just like, why we gotta get political here? I just want to watch wrestling. It's just like, it ain't even, I promise you, it is not that deep. And I promise you, those wrestlers do not care what you think, because you're still gonna watch them. It's just like, you're still gonna watch them. No, 90% of the time. So, and I could go on that rabbit hole then. See, look, and like I said, we even looked at this well. These are matches as a whole. 2024, that man gave us 6 matches. 2023, this man gave us 11 matches. 2023, this man gave us 11 matches. 2022, okay, 52 matches. Can't necessarily hate on that. 52, you were trying. It's like you were trying. 2021, you gave us 61. 2020, like I said, I won't necessarily take into account too bad, because we know what was going on around that time. And of course 99, when everything went downhill for Roman Reigns. So 2020 and 2019, I don't really take into account necessarily. It's when you get to 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. You wrestled 11 times in 2023. 6 times in 2024. This man wrestled 17 times in 2 years as champion, and you want me to call this man the GOAT? It's just like, and you want me to call this man the GOAT. Now, 2024, obviously, he did lose his title to Cody Rhodes, but still, you want me to call this man the GOAT after 17 matches in 2 years? No, I'm not sold on that. Not sold on that at all whatsoever. You're not gonna get me to be hyped in that. Me and Devin was actually counting the days. Me and Devin, there was a point in time where me and Devin was on stream. I was like, Devin, this is month 2. This is month 2 where we haven't seen a title defense for Roman Reigns. It's like we would go on and on and on and on and back and forth, about that very same situation. And so let me see if I can go back. Let me see if I can switch over real fast. I'm actually going to switch I'm going to switch screens here, because we can actually go and see the no, because we can for us to go through and look at the title defenses like that. Obviously, it's pay-per-view, so it's gonna obviously look like it's gonna be months and months, apart. But the fact that we were going months without seeing a title defense, without even seeing Roman Reigns himself, was disgusting. 11 times you wrestled in 365 days in that year. You only wrestled 11 of them. What was your record in there? What was your win-loss record? You only lost twice. You only lost twice in 2023. That's sick. For Roman's defense, he was sick for a minute. And that's another thing where we have to talk about as well. Even with him getting down early on when he was sick, I will give him that benefit of the doubt. When and like I said, that 2019, 2020, I'll even give you 2021, when we were still weary about Roman Reigns coming back, because how could this affect his leukemia? We would much rather him be safe. But at that point in time, just drop the belt. But even then, when he was sick, he was coming back and flexing a new contract. I was at a couple of SmackDowns. I was at a SmackDown with my sister, and Roman Reigns was talking about how much money he made and how he was just flexing that he can work less and still get paid more. And you're mad at him because, and he was saying this, but it was so ironic that 5 or 7 years ago, that wasn't what you were saying. Then I understand, it's a heel turn. You're seeing the light, you're seeing the vision, you understand. But I do think it's just a bit trash. I just think it's a bit trash that we have to go through and we have to sit through a whole, what I want to say, year and a half. Because the first half of Roman Reigns' title reign, I will give him, he was active. He was active. It was just the fact of he was wrestling a bunch of matches that we knew he wasn't losing. And that continued on, but just at a much, much lesser pace. And it sucks that you have to wait to see your champion, and then as soon as you see him, he's giving you a lackluster match. He's giving you lackluster performances. And I'm still like, I can't think of any other match outside of Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns that was really, really good, that was really, really great, that we could put up there in a pedestal. I gave him props in the triple threat match with Edge and Daniel Bryan, but that's all he gets. That's all he's getting from me. That's literally all he's getting from me. Outside of that, that's pretty much the only positive I can give Roman Reigns in this instance. But like I said, I do want to look at a little bit of the comments here. We're gonna go through some good and bad. I'm not gonna, be too biased here. But latest comments, of course, in the cage match inmates, of course, some of the people that vote, and of course, I've been on here a whole lot, in more ways than one. And so these are coming from not only this year, but last year and a couple years back as well. The first one, just off rip, this is actually coming from a couple days ago. He's always been good as a champion, but never good when he's not. Just look at him right now. Never got the big fight feel again from him since he lost the title, except from the Mania Triple Threat. And I think it's because his matches are designed to fit the main event. And and that's the thing. I feel like that's a tough one too, because when he already tried to preach to us that he is main event, he's not going to wrestle for this and he's not going to do this and that and the other, let's get up, wise man, start up the jet. We out of here. It's just like, we seen it all. We seen the tribal chief, the OTC. And I won't necessarily say that they never had a fight. His matches don't have a great fight feel. I do think they have a great fight feel to it. I just think we already know the outcome. Roman Reigns versus Bronson Reed, that man's getting his shoes back. Like, we already knew that. We already knew that. We need, like, when Roman Reigns took on Cody Rhodes, that was one of the only times, especially when Cody Rhodes lost the first time. That was one of the moments we were just like, oh man, not only do we get a year of this, and we didn't see him for a while either, but not only are we getting another year of this, but they might just run this back. Cody Rhodes is going to have the chance to do this again. Cody Rhodes is going to have to fight his way back up to the top and win and do this again. And he did. He ended up winning. And of course, it was emotional. We had a great time. We had a great time celebrating, Cody Rhodes getting the win. But Cody Rhodes, I think, at that point in time, was the only person that stepped up to Roman and we thought, oh, it's wraps now, brother. It's over now, brother. It's about that time. Like I said, we talk about Drew McIntyre, but Daniel Bryan didn't give you that. Edge didn't give you that. Brock Lesnar didn't give you that. Goldberg didn't give you that at all. And we could go on and on and on all day, but they didn't. They didn't give you that at all. So this one was more recent as well. Roman Reigns is one of the rare instances. Ouch. Roman Reigns is one of the rare instances where the IWC was right. He's better as a heel. He has a superstar look. You could tell he's a main eventer. His wrestling is solid, but he's nothing special. His promos have improved drastically since becoming a heel, and he's been able to draw back more on his natural charisma. That is a huge statement. I agree with that 100%. I don't think he's the face of the company worthy. The guy is clearly a top draw as a heel. Can he do well as a face? Probably, but why fix something that isn't broken? There's far more he could do as a heel than a baby face. And I do think he is face of the company worthy because he was that for 2 years. It's just like he was a face of the company. We almost got the Bloodline ones. He almost had some shoes. He almost had some Jordans. Like we ain't never seen in a minute. I've never seen a wrestler, in a long time, step up and come close to get some shoes. But here goes one that's pretty negative here. Oh, actually, yeah, there's actually one up top. To paraphrase a rather great Twitter comment. You don't get to be one of the GOATs when you sucked for a decade straight and started working part-time as soon as you finally got good. Yes. Let's hold on. Let's highlight that. Let's highlight that. You don't get to be one of the GOATs when you sucked for a decade straight and started working part-time as soon as you finally got good. It's like he knew I was gonna live stream. It's like he knew I was gonna live stream, and he had to write because that is perfect. I was talking for about 30 minutes, and he summed it up with just one sentence, and that's exactly what I was trying to say. And that's exactly what I'm trying to get at here. Roman has always looked and was better in the ring than we gave him credit for, But it took WWE forever to find out that he's a natural, smarmy heel. The Tribal Chief stuff was great, but I'm not giving him higher than a 6 because I was there, man. I remember the Sufferers Succotash. I remember the dreadful matches with Kane and Bray Wyatt. I was there, man. I was there. But that's the thing. I'm not going to judge Roman Reigns based off that past there that he has. I'm talking about based off his title reign alone. How can we call this man the GOAT? Because he was shivering in his boots. John Cena, Roman Reigns had to get bullied, to literally get him out of his shell. And we seen it live on television. And I remember this vividly, just watching Roman Reigns talk to John Cena. John Cena, I'm here because you can't do your job. And Roman Reigns, well, that's what you do. That you're John Cena. You just take anything and you spin it. And then Roman Reigns is just sitting there staring. And John Cena's like, well, it's called a promo. If you want to be the big dog here, you got to learn how to spin a promo. And that's, of course, Roman Reigns gets out of his shell. He starts cussing at John Cena. So we started getting a little bit of animosity from Roman Reigns. And he started yelling. We started getting... That's when we started seeing a shift with Roman Reigns. You got to get embarrassed a little bit. You got to get told off a little bit. And John Cena helped him with that. And what I mean by helped him with that, I feel like there's a receipt with that. And what I mean by a receipt is, man, Roman Reigns have been beating John Cena down ever since. Roman Reigns beat John Cena when they went one-on-one at that moment. He beat him again when he was when Roman Reigns turned heel. And then, of course, you go back to the Roman Reigns situation as well. In the Royal Rumble, he's just beating the brakes off of John Cena. I'm like, man, you can't win for losing. It's like, you can't win for losing anymore. C Fluid, question. Do you think Roman will be able to adapt in other wrestling promotions like Jon Moxley has? No. And I don't even think Jon Moxley can do that as well because Jon Moxley found the right spot to go. Jon Moxley was doing this death stuff, was doing the extreme fighting stuff. So when he showed up in AEW, who has no holds barred, where extreme is their middle name, even though it's elite, extreme is their middle name, they're going to do anything, that goes in Jon Moxley's realm, in terms of just the fighting style. I think if Jon Moxley goes over to TNA, I mean, he can still wrestle. Let me not put that against Jon Moxley. It was just for a while. He just stopped like right now in AEW, he wrestles like he's the Big Show. It's like he wrestles like he's just this big guy where Hangman Page is hitting you with forearms and you're not falling. Hangman Page is hitting you with clotheslines and you're not falling. You guys are the same size. It's just like you are no bigger than a lot of these guys that you're wrestling, and yet Jon Moxley wasn't sell for nobody. That's not going to work in TNA. That shouldn't work in TNA I don't think. So I think Jon Moxley just found the right place at that point in time. Because Jon Moxley sometimes wrestled like he is 6'5", 300 pounds, can't be. It's just an unmovable force. You shout out to Get Yo, Izzy, how you living, brother? Man, I'm all good, man. I'm feeling the love. How you living, my brother? How's you living? Moxley has adapted, sir. He's done his thing in New Japan and New Japan as well. I think he's been really solid in New Japan. But even with that, like I still don't think that takes away from the fact that you're wrestling like you're this huge Goliath of a man, and you're wrestling guys that are the same size as you. You're selling most of the stuff that they're doing. And honestly, I don't see how that equates to entertainment. It's just like in terms of watching Jon Moxley matches in more ways than one. And even when he is getting choked out, even when he gets on the other side of a beatdown, he's going to get right back up. I think Jon Moxley plays this invincible man. Like how people talk about Super Cena, that's how I feel about Jon Moxley. That's how I see Jon Moxley. And I don't think that's the way. I just don't like the wrestling style. I guess I'm just not a fan of it, and I can admit that. So I can admit that I'm just not a fan of Jon Moxley's wrestling style. So even when he gets out of the AEW style and he does wrestle a solid match, because I've only seen maybe one or two of his New Japan appearances, Jon Moxley can still go. It's just the times where there is the no selling and then the gyrating, and you're a guy that's pretty much the same size as you is trying to kick you in the face and clothesline you, and you're just sitting there hitting the fit lean. You know, it's just like not even selling at all in the situation. And that's really one of the things that irritate me the most. Like, I don't know. And that's just I just don't find Jon Moxley's style of wrestling entertaining at this point in time. In the beginning, when he showed up to AEW, oh yeah, matches against Kenny Omega, oh yes, any match that he had with Kenny Omega, yeah, of course, yes, I would watch it. Yes, I was entertained by his matches with Chris Jericho. Yes, early on, yes, entertained by. You know, when Jon Moxley had the AEW championship the first go around, yeah, he showed off. And at that point in time, I was like, yeah, you are one of the best wrestlers of, you know, in this at that point in time. I'm not gonna say of our generation, but at that point in time, yeah, he was running things. We ain't gonna sit here and say that Jon Moxley wasn't taking over the wrestling world by storm at a point in time, pretending to break out, you know, once he got released from WWE, you know, pretending to break out of the prison that he was in, and then of course making his way to AEW. Can I get a thank you? You know, Chris Jericho in the ring turns around, Jon Moxley just completely gets him out of there. I just don't like how he is now. I'm just not a fan of Death Rider Jon Moxley. And so that's why I don't think, in terms of adapting right now, it's just not for me. I don't think it's there. I just don't think it's there. And even with Roman, I think Roman would have to wrestle the same style that Jon Moxley is wrestling. You know, the not necessarily the no selling, but you are the main, you are the go-to guy. You are a main eventer. You know, you are you can be the face of a company, you know, outside of what the guy that we were just reading commented, you know, and saying that he doesn't think he could be the face of a company, which that's not true. He was the face of a company for 2 years. I think Roman Reigns can go anywhere and be the face of the company, but it just depends on, I don't think he's doing anything of the extreme. You know, I don't think he's gonna go and do some extreme matches or take that route that Jon Moxley went. Because there was a point in time where I was just like, oh man, Jon Moxley, he's versatile, man. You want a singles match? He'll go give you a singles match. You want a tag match? He'll give you a tag match. He'll give you a 8-man tag. He'll give you, and then he'll give you a death-defying, barbed wire, everywhere exploder, death match, winner goes to Jesus Christ match. You know, it's just like, he's gonna give you whatever you need because he's that versatile. And whatever he's gonna give you is entertaining. So, oh, here goes C Fluid. So is Seth the best wrestler out of the Shield? Yes. Yes. And that's, you know what's the crazy part? I hate it. I hate it. I was a huge Dean Ambrose. I was a Dean Ambrose fan when because look, since we want to talk about GOATs and since we want to talk about people past and whatnot, Roman Reigns, he only had one line. Believe that. That's it. That's all you got. That's all you got from Roman Reigns. Dean Ambrose did all the talking. Yeah, we're here to take over. We're here to demolish you guys, and we're here to set the tone because we are the Shield. We're gonna beat you, you know. And Seth Rollins, okay, yeah, we've been doing this for so long. We young and we hungry, and we're gonna eat y'all up. You know, like Seth Rollins, and then he put it on display with his wrestling. Seth Rollins was bouncing all over the place. You know, Roman Reigns, of course, Dean Ambrose, excuse me, he had his suicide dives. He was athletic, he had a long United States Championship reign as a member of the Shield, but he could talk. You know, he was the voice, and that's what was entertaining with Dean Ambrose. But Seth Rollins, yeah, it took me a minute to get on board with the Seth Rollins hype train. It took until he betrayed the Shield, because when he hit Roman Reigns in the back with that chair, I was more floored that it wasn't the other way around. I thought Roman Reigns was gonna have a chair. Roman Reigns was gonna beat his guys down, and we were gonna get the rise of Roman Reigns, you know. But that wasn't the case. We got the rise of Seth Rollins first, and then they started working on Roman Reigns, and then, you know, Dean Ambrose got the Dean Ambrose treatment. But and then of course they started going back. They started breaking up, getting back together, bringing, you know, that whole thing as one faction should, you know, as one faction does. But is Seth Rollins the best wrestler out of the Shield? Yes, 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 yes. And that's with 2 bad knees. Yes, yes, he is the best wrestler out of the Shield. Roman Reigns matches are slow pace. I used to have fun watching Roman Reigns matches. When Roman Reigns was lean, when Roman Reigns had the Shield gear, damn it. You know, it's just like Roman Reigns, I thought he was cool. It didn't start dawning on me until like I said, the second half of his title reign. The second half of Roman Reigns' title reign is when I was just like, all right, I think I'm done with Roman. You know, I was like, I think I finally see what the problem is. And I just wasn't entertained. I wasn't entertained at all, even when I thought I was being entertained, because I love Kevin Owens. I'm a huge Kevin Owens fan. When Kevin Owens, I sat there and watched Kevin Owens tell me, he didn't tell the fans, he told me personally. He told me that he wasn't gonna wrestle he wasn't gonna wrestle Randy Orton at WrestleMania. I wanted to, and while everybody, the hooligans, even Devin, the hooligan that he is, the hooligans around me were cheering, just cheering, doing the nah. He's walking away. Oh, just disgusting. I wanted to cry. I wanted to run the ones with every single body. Now, granted, I'm not saying my win-loss record would have been great, but granted, I wanted to run the ones with everybody in there for disrespecting my GOAT like that. Now, granted, Kevin Owens is not the GOAT, but still, just want to show some love to Kevin Owens. But yeah, Seth Rollins, best wrestler out of the Shield. Yep, I agree with that. Honestly, if you had to, like if you told me, hey, Isaiah, you have Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, who are you putting in the Hall of Fame first? They all three of them are getting into the Hall of Fame. We're just gonna do one year, one the second year, one the third year. Who we putting in first? Honestly, with what Roman Reigns did in the past 4 years that we've seen, you got no choice but to put Roman first. But if it was up to me, I'd be like, man, Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins was the workhorse. He was telling us, that we weren't seeing Roman, even after what he was saying. He was reminding us that he's still around. Even when he was tearing his knee, this man's been tearing his knee apart for a while. Like, if you've seen that video of him trying to crawl in the ring at the main event of Mania when Roman Reigns was taking on Cody Rhodes and seeing his leg just move in a total opposite direction, and this is after fighting Drew McIntyre in a 6-second match because obviously he's injured. He's not going to wrestle a whole crazy match, So Seth Rollins, there's a point in time he's put the company on his back numerous times. And when Roman Reigns had the company on his back, he didn't show up. And what I mean by he didn't show up, he wasn't at work. Now, Isaiah, he was injured. Isaiah, he was sick. Well, I'm sorry. You didn't show up. You weren't there. Where was you when I needed you? Seth Rollins was there. No, it's just like Seth Rollins was there. And so, yeah, I would definitely, Seth Rollins would be one of my first ones. I become a huge Seth Rollins fan more and more, even when I didn't like it. Even when Seth Rollins was beefing with Baron Corbin, and of course we got the Baron Corbin, Lacey Evans, Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins, and the man's man. Even though I didn't like all that, I knew when he got in the ring, it's gonna get nasty. It's gonna get insane. When he was the Monday Night Messiah, and he was coming out and he was doing all his nonsense and he was trying to take people's eyes out. It was weird. It was stupid. But as soon as he got in that ring, I didn't care. I didn't care at all. With Roman, it's all hype. It's just all hype. I'm more entertained by his interest than I am with his matches, if I'm gonna be honest with you. He does kick out like a G though. That 2.999, like it's pretty sick. I will give him that. He has perfected that. He has perfected kicking out at like the perfect. You ever play 2K? He has greened. He has perfected the kick out. And so that's something I will give Roman Reigns. But if you want to ask me who's the best wrestler out of the Shield, yeah, I'd say Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is the best wrestler because he can talk, he can wrestle, he can do everything under the sun. Like I don't think there's anything Seth Rollins can't do besides maybe be a little. I think he could be a little more technical in terms of adding a little bit more submissions to his game, but that's me nitpicking. Now we're nitpicking. So I think Seth Rollins is perfect. In terms of just being a wrestler. And I thought about that with Roman after a while. I thought Roman was at a point in time a perfect wrestler, but I just don't see that anymore. I don't see that. Yeah, and here goes one last quote here. I'm sorry, but as much as his current persona is 1,000 times much better than the garbage that was his big dog persona, his repetitive, predictable, and limited wrestling style doesn't sit well with me. Not to mention his clear shortcomings on the microphone, despite his improvements. From the beginning, WWE tried to shoehorn him, pretending that he was the next John Cena and undeservedly putting him in the main event after main event, while removing and burying talents too far superior to him. No mentions to the rest of his nepotistic family. A generic wrestler who, despite having managed to connect with the public after years of floundering in the most absolute rejection, For me, it's still nothing remarkable in any way, and it's still the same overrated lump that they shoehorned in 2015. 4 out of 10. Dang. I needed to Meet the Grams theme music. I need to Meet the Grams instrumental in the back for that one. But I can't say that I can't say that he's wrong. I can't say that he's wrong about that at all. While removing and burying talents far superior than him. I won't say removing talents, but definitely burying talents. They definitely buried a decent amount of talents as well. Look at Austin Theory. Also, when Austin Theory won the Money in the Bank briefcase, and Roman Reigns had both belts, who you gonna cash it in on, brother? It's like, who you gonna cash it in on? What's happening? What we doing here? Vince McMahon definitely see a whole lot of you. He don't see that much in you. He don't see that much in you. And if he do this, if he do something going on, I'm sorry. If he do this, so something just going on at that point in time. But that's just how I'm seeing it here. But that's pretty much my go-to reason as to why Roman Reigns is just not the GOAT at all. Inconsistency. Wasn't even there, wasn't even showing up 90% of the time, even after complaining about guys not being there and his promise that guys were showing up and trying to pretty much show that there is growth with what he's doing, but in actuality, it was only growth in his family. The only thing that was entertaining was his family feud. Outside of that, once you branched out of fighting Jay and Jimmy, you became boring. And then, of course, Sammy showed up and revived it a little bit. Not even a little bit. You revived it. I ain't going to say a little bit. I'll put some respect on it. After Sami Zayn came back and revived everything, you got a little bit more entertaining. Things got a little oozy. It's like things got a little oozy. But after that, nothing. Nothing at all. I've showed you statistics. I've went through too many rants. just too many rants. And let's see how many. Let's look at the awards. Oh, okay. This text is hidden. Okay, I don't got the hookup to look at the text. Okay, but that's all. That's all we got right here at this point in time. So honestly, a huge shout out to C Fluid. So who is the current GOAT then? Honestly, like I said, I feel like that's just up to your interpretation because I do think that John Cena's my GOAT. Because even when John Cena was injured from a broken neck, from the golf ball that was in his elbow, like there are multiple times that John Cena, where I highly remember, is expected to return within a year and some change. Or it wasn't, they didn't say a year and some change, but John Cena is not expected to return within 9 to 12 months. John Cena is not expected to return within a year and some change. And yet, this man shows up between 4 or 5 months. And then not only that, he would win a championship belt. He would win a title within the next couple months. And it was like nothing has changed. Now, granted, that is the problem. Nothing changed with John Cena. We were still getting the same gimmick. But even before he was wearing the Fruit Loop shirts and everything and whatnot, the thugonomics, basic thugonomics, him winning the United States Championship belt, just he's had highlights on highlights on highlights. And like I said, even when the fans turned on him, he fed into it. Even when they were booing him, he wasn't even able to say a word at a point in time. And he was like, "Is this going to be the day I lash out on the WWE universe?" Unfortunately, that will not be this time. And then they just boo him even more. It's just like, brother, like John Cena knew how to mess with you, and John Cena knew how to rile up your emotions. And on top of that, outside of the 5 moves of doom that I didn't start really getting annoyed with until the tail end of his full-time career. That was when I was just like, okay, maybe we should start seeing a little bit. But even then, even when I started getting a little bit stale with John Cena, he would do something that would get me back on track. It wasn't like Chris Jericho when it was blatantly obvious. We saw basic thugonomics John Cena. Of course, he turns babyface. We see him become just, PG John Cena, PG Cena. And of course, on top of that, after we see him evolve into what we call Super Cena, and okay, he's going to keep winning every match, and the fans are going to keep booing him out of the building. He's just too nice. He's never going to change. He's going to keep messing with us as well in these promos. Even bouncing off after that, him winning the United States Championship belt. A lot of people said that it was a downgrade. He showed up every week. Every week. If you want some, come get some. That Sami Zayn match on Raw, which I'm so happy it came full circle. That match was amazing. It wasn't what put me on to Sami Zayn, because I do remember him getting absolutely splatted by Kevin Owens, which is why my love for Kevin Owens started when he splatted Sami Zayn on the end of the mat, on the end of the ring in NXT. But Sami Zayn in the match he had against John Cena, Cesaro in the match that he had against John Cena, Neville in the match that he had against John Cena in the United States title open. So much fun. And in those title matches, we saw John Cena pull up Hurricane Ranas, put up Cold Reds. John Cena was putting together all the stops. The middle rope stunner. John Cena was hitting middle rope stunners. Like, brother, and his wrestling evolved. And it just didn't become the 5 moves of doom anymore. It became, okay, let's see what we got here. Like John Cena was hitting together. I don't know what the move was, but he kind of picked you up like a sidewalk slam and then just spun you over. I don't know how the move was. I forgot what the specific move is called. But my goat is John Cena all the way. And at least for this generation, for this time, I go with John Cena. And we're going GOAT like greatest of all time in general. I think you would just have to give that to either Stone Cold or The Rock. You got to give that to either Stone Cold or The Rock. Because even though Vince McMahon still played a huge part in that, they had the complete package. They had the total package. Stone Cold Steve Austin, you couldn't tell that man nothing. The Rock, you couldn't tell that man nothing. And the only reason why I wouldn't necessarily give it to why wouldn't I give it to The Undertaker? There is no reason why I can't give it to The Undertaker. Because Undertaker has put in some great work. You can't find a whole lot of times where Undertaker's looked soft, where he's looked weak. And even then, when he revamped himself and he came out as the American Badass, like, it was just so, we got so in tune with what he was putting on in the motorcycle. We all wanted, you've done it now. It's just like Undertaker just had that personality to him. And then, of course, he's beefing with Kane. He brings back the Undertaker persona, the Undertaker persona. And we see him be back and better than ever. Now when he comes back and he brings back the bandanas, we're not really tripping. So that's really one of the things I see. Stone Cold for me, oh, really? He also says, the Seafood also says, The Rock was great, but he wasn't in wrestling for very long. Yeah, when you think about it, from 96, 95 maybe, in terms of like his prime, like 96, 90, like, yeah, 96 to what? 02? Maybe 6-7 years of The Rock. Stone Cold was bouncing around. He was wrestling for Jim Cornette, then went around to wrestling the ECW. Of course, in WCW as well. He had to bounce with Stone Cold, had to bounce around. The Rock was broke. Like, if we're gonna be honest here, The Rock was in football, was broke, was sitting on the couch. These are his words. I'm not saying it's a clown though, because he has an amazing story. But he was broke on his couch, and he had to train to wrestle. And then he had to get his big break as Rocky Maivia and switch over to The Rock. When he turned heel and was Nation of Domination. I agree with you. I can agree with you there. But then again, that also brings back The Undertaker. Where do we throw The Undertaker in there? Where do we throw The Undertaker in there? Because he definitely was I can't find a reason to not consider Undertaker the GOAT, especially for a man that just never broke character once. Especially him coming out and riding on the motorcycles. He never once lost that Undertaker aura. We were just like, oh man, he's riding motorcycles. He's coming out, he's drinking maybe a couple beers, with the gang. He was like, he looked serious. He looked like he was part of a motorcycle gang. And then he went back to being a dead man. It's just like, it wasn't shocking. It wasn't shocking, and we had fun, and it was cool, and it was a breath of fresh air. So where do we put the Undertaker at? But here's my next one. In terms of just the complete wrestler, where do we put Kurt Angle? Like, Kurt Angle was just flawless. Like, if we're gonna be honest here, Kurt Angle was just flawless. I can't think of anything. I think Kurt Angle's a really good promo, a great promo. So outside of like out of the ring, I can't think of anything anything negative that I could put on Kurt Angle. Outside of what the Vince McMahon gave him, of course, in terms of storylines and him wanting to have bestiality sex with your wife, that thing with Booker T. But outside of that, Kurt Angle's the GOAT. If somebody had Kurt Angle as the GOAT, I can't. Well, I did. I actually knew somebody in college that had Kurt Angle as the GOAT because he hated John Cena because he firmly believed that John Cena couldn't wrestle, and of course, him having a wrestling background, understandable. It's like, can't be mad at that, understandable. But where do you put Kurt Angle at? Kurt Angle was flawless. If you take out the antics, where do you put Shawn Michaels? Shawn Michaels was as smooth as silk. Where do you now? if you want to go back and go all the way, go way back in the time, I'm not sitting here and breaking down Bruno Sammartino matches. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and I watch a Bruno Sammartino match. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh man, like, what about Bruno Sammartino taking out? Like, because none of us was there. None of us were there. None of us were there. Now, one day I will. I will actually go through and look back at some of the historic wrestling matches, and we'll have fun watching that as well. But I'm not gonna break down something that I had no point in time. I wasn't watching that in no way, shape, or form at all. So even with that, there's a hair right here. Yeah, so even with that, like, where do you put these guys at? We need to have a GOAT tier list, because even I've talked about this before, and I haven't gotten canceled yet, so I gotta keep saying it because it's true, and I'm not trying to glorify the man, but growing up, I loved me some Chris Benoit. I was a huge Chris Benoit fan because I felt just like Kurt Angle, he could do everything. He could fly outside of the ring. He could submit people. He had a technical background. Of course, he was just a fit, athletic dude. Now, he's also a murderer and a disgusting human being, and we can also throw that in there as well. But, I thought he shared similar qualities of Kurt Angle in terms of just, and then Eddie Guerrero as well. Since we're talking about, Kurt Angle, and I brought up the fight that Kurt Angle and Eddie Guerrero had back. It was like back in the day. It wasn't a fight. Eddie Guerrero just tried to, I think he tried to double leg take down Kurt, and Kurt was like, brother, like, I'm an Olympic wrestler. Like, it's like, what are you doing? It's like, come on now. Like, it wasn't a fight, but Eddie Guerrero tried to pretty much take Kurt Angle down, and Kurt Angle was like, brother, come on now. I can imagine it being like one of those kids. It's like a kid is like trying to take you down. He asks you about the hip, and you're just holding him. Like, come on now. Like, you ready to get lifted up? Like, you ready to get lifted up now? Do I lift you up here now later? But yeah, Eddie Guerrero, very technical. He can fly off the top rope. Of course, he has a wrestling background as well. Where do you put Eddie Guerrero? I put all of them over Roman Reigns with the quickness. Well, excluding one. We don't talk about Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit's out of my GOAT list. After you did what you did, you're out of my GOAT list. I just talk about you in the past because what you did in the past, I mean, I'm not gonna ignore it, but I also can't ignore what you also did in the past, which is now the past of murder. So yeah, outside of that, I'll put all those people over Roman Reigns 100%. But I do think you had a great point. The Rock was great, but he definitely wasn't in wrestling for long. I definitely think he had maybe 6-7 years. Then he's like, I'm gonna do Hollywood. My heart isn't in this. I'm actually go to Hollywood now. But switching over from Roman Reigns, since we're already an hour in, we talked about an hour. We talked about Roman for an hour and some change. I'm glad we got this out. I appreciate you, C Fluid. We had to get this out. We definitely had to get all of this out. But let me see. Yes, we should do a collab show. Ooh, got a text from the Chokeslam Wrestling. We had a whole lot of fun at Circle of Debate yesterday. That was too much fun. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to run that back again. But Ronda Rousey gets on my last nerves. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I play WWE 2K25 and I play UFC 5 as well. No matter what I'm playing, if Ronda Rousey's across from me, she's getting the beats. She's getting the beat now. And I'm just talking about in terms of wrestling. I don't look. She could turn me to a person in seconds. So I'm pretty sure she's not worried about a kid from Indiana. A 26-year-old from Indiana here. But of course, one thing that she isn't doing is just staying silent. She just won't stop talking, man. She just won't stop talking, and she keep talking. Even after saying that she don't care about WWE, she done with wrestling. She still got some more stuff to say about wrestling, and it's irritating because it's like, lady, if you done, just be done. If you're done, just be done. So, of course, the backstage area was full of pain. Of course, she was talking about, let me come up a little bit. Former UFC champion, she has successfully made the jump to professional wrestling to become a WWE War Women's champion. Rousey was on the cusp of making history yet again as one of the first women to main event WrestleMania, but she had to get through the final episode of WWE Raw to get there. The backstage area was in a full panic as the script was being torn up and rewritten just an hour or so before the show went live. Perhaps in an effort to distract, Paul Heyman casually asked Ronda what kind of movie she would like to star in, if resources wasn't an issue, and what kind of role she would play. That got me thinking, what is a story that is uniquely and totally me, and what am I going through? What nobody understands better than me, Ronda tells Uncrowned. And then that just turned into this story about my own anxiety, about becoming a mom and bringing life into a hostile world and doubting my own ability to be able to protect my child in it. Dang, that's tough. I will agree. Dang, that's tough. Huge shout out to C Fluid. Agree. That show was great yesterday with all you guys. Yeah, man. Look, every time we're in a circle of debate, it's like it's so much fun. Like it's a great community. I'm blessed. Me and Devin are blessed. We ran into circle. We ran into Justin first, and then Justice drug us into circle of debate, and we've been happy ever since. Ronda did give John Moxley his props, and look, even with that, with one positive comment that we will get from Ronda, it's just too much negative. And that's where my biggest problem. Because if you're like she has already said the worst of the worst when it came to WWE. Vince McMahon, well, if you heard what was going on, what Vince McMahon was doing and what Bruce Pritchard was doing with who's the other one? John Laurinaitis, and you heard what was going on. Oh my goodness, they should be ashamed of themselves. And you already went on this run years ago. You've been talking about this for years. And you still won't stop. You still won't stop. If you done, just be done. Okay, I don't care about a book. let's just be honest. I don't care about a good book. Okay, the moment that transformed into a near obsession, she went from WrestleMania 35 to surgery repair her broken hand and shooting the late night show with Colbert and closing her eyes for a few hours before flying home. Instead of sleeping, Ronda Rousey recalls her mind racing as she came up with a scene that would offer a foundation for her forthcoming graphic novel, Expect the Unexpected, which is expected to release on October. Yeah, okay. We're looking at this and we're trying to find her comments here. I went and won an Olympic medal, and then I became a bartender. There was just nothing I could do, nothing I could go on to from that. Reverberating out from what happened in the UFC season now, women in WWE are getting a lot more respect and making a lot more money. Women in boxing are getting a lot more respect and making a lot more money. And I know that is a direct result from what we were able to do in the UFC. It warms my heart to be able to see all the women take that torch and running with it and setting fires of their own. I do agree with that. If anybody set the trend for women actually making the way and actually getting that push to get the TV time and get paid more, not in terms of, I'm not putting WWE just strictly in that bubble. I'm putting UFC in that bubble as well, because you look at how it is now, with the Zhang Wei Lees and Island Perez's and Alexa Grazos, not Holly Holmes, Valentina Shevchenko, you're seeing you're seeing the women UFC fighters getting put on a pedestal as well, and on top of that, they're getting paid a solid amount. Now they could be put on there could be more exposure. We could see a whole lot more. I know it's not really the most interesting, of course, and I mean by interesting to watch, I mean like there's not a whole lot of finishes that you're going to get in terms of these UFC fights in the women's. Just a whole lot of decisions as well. They're going to fight to the matter. It's more technical, as you're seeing. But now, and granted, that's just me watching from the outside looking in. Of course, like I said, I've been watching UFC, at least religiously, for the past year after taking like a 5-year, 7-year hiatus. But I still remember watching, of course, Ronda Rousey going on and just absolutely torching the UFC until Holly Holmes kicked her head off. But I don't think any woman trailblazer gets enough credit, because I think people forget very quickly the way that it was and how difficult it used to be. I can agree with that too. I agree with that. I think the people not remembering how it was, that no one wanted to give a woman's fighter a minute of their day, as opposed to seeing them as a valuable investment now. But I don't want them to be able to know what that was like. There's no way you could have known if you had lived it. Then I don't want them to live it. Like I said, I will give her a whole lot of credit. I'll give her props. She is right there. She is right there. So she talks about by the end of her run, though, the pressure came with being a high-level star in the company, and the dynamic of working in the environment established by Vince McMahon just wasn't right for her. It was a knot of needless anxiety and things like that, and the whole company was just a chaotic show on the inside. And then they ended up dropping all of my friends. Ronda pointed to, of course, Shayna Baszler, Marina Shafir, and Jessamine Duke as well. So I really have no reason to go back. I wanted to do a run with the 4 horsewomen, and I never got to do that. And I feel like I've already accomplished everything that I wanted to in WWE. And all that's really left for me is to go there and have fun with my friends. And none of them, my friends, are there anymore. Good. Not good as in like none of your friends are there anymore, but good, don't come back. I don't want you there. Nobody wants to see Ronda Rousey back in the WWE. I didn't think she could wrestle. The time that she was able to wrestle, it was against Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, and they pretty much ran that match. Outside of that, she complained about working with Alexa Bliss. You know, she always has something to say. Always got something to say when it comes to WWE as well. Outside of a return from Trish Stratus and Nikki Bella in Evolution 2025, focuses less on highlighting former stars in the ring and more on honoring their careers, which with many seated around ringside for occasional on-camera cameo. I didn't hear from anybody. It was more of the way we left it was. They were like, there's always an open door. If you ever want to come back, let us know, Ronda says. I just don't think I could be on the road with the company again. I have 2 girls, and hopefully we can have some more soon. I love that. There's just no room in my life to be able to maintain that lifestyle and have a family at the same time. Good. Like I said, I don't want her to come back. I don't want her to come back to wrestling at all. And she even goes on to see Fluid's point. I think so much has to do with Jon Moxley being the most incredible human being ever. He's so supportive and so kind and so passionate. He's so humble, and I feel like so much of that success stems from his talent, and not just that of his talent, but his willingness and passion to give back and to bring up everybody with him that has his rising tide lift all of their boats. And I'm so grateful for him and the kind of friend that he is been to Marina Shafir. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that, though. I think that's actually a great point. Because that is one thing that Jon Moxley will do. He do stick out for his friends. He do look out for his friends. Yeah, we seen it with the Death Riders. We seen it with when Jon Moxley and him started the Blackpool Combat Club, and we saw the work that was being done there. And it didn't take until they turned on Bryan Danielson for everything to pretty much turn downhill. But yeah, there is a whole lot of love, for Jon Moxley and Ronda Rousey. I almost said Rhea Ripley. Those R's almost blew me off. But of course, Peter Rosenberg. I won't call him a stooge. That's disrespectful. But of course, he is trying to be the mouthpiece here for WWE in this instance. Ronda Rousey recently stirred controversy with her negative comments about her time in WWE and her colleague Alexa Bliss. And just saying it right here, Rosenberg said Ronda's comments about Bliss were disrespectful. For her to blatantly criticize the fact that she worked with Alexa Bliss as if Bliss was somehow beneath her was yet another example of just how Ronda Rousey needing to pry her foot out of her mouth. He said, I never enjoyed her as a character. Rosenberg said, I thought her in-ring work had a realism that made her potentially interesting. Yeah, I feel like we all did. But it was just the point that after that, we got nothing. We got absolutely nothing after that. And so to give more context into why Peter Rosenberg was so upset with Ronda Rousey's comments, she goes on the Lapsed Fans podcast. Of course, the former baddest woman on the planet spoke about her WWE run. Ronda Rousey implied that she was not fond of WWE's decision to have her square off against Bliss, adding the goddess high merch sales may have factored into the company's plans that ultimately led to her feud. She said the fact that they had me fighting Alexa Bliss was ridiculous. And you want to know why they had me fight against Alexa Bliss? Because she had the most merch sales at the time. Like, what? That's your decision-making process. Yep, that's their decision-making process. You know what's happening now? You know what just happened like a couple months ago? Jey Uso won the belt. Want to know why? Because everybody was yeeting all over the place, and he was leading in merch sales. Yes, they're going to reward that. You want to know why Jeff Hardy won that triple threat match between Triple H and Edge? Because he was leading the merch sales. He was leading the merch sales. When you look at it, when you look at it, at the end of the day, Ronda Rousey just that's business. That's 100% business. Obviously, you don't gotta like it. But Alexa Bliss was still goated. Even around that 2017.
Wikipedia.org. The complete series of Good Morning, Miss Bliss was released
Alexa,
by Shout.
Stop. What was that? I was like, what was that? But outside of that, trying to get in my conversation, trying to get my Ronda Rousey Alexa Bliss conversation. But Alexa Bliss, there was a point in time where she was destroying the women's division. She was the bully. She was bullying Nia Jax. She beat the hugging out of Bayley. Literally. And yeah, we just supposed to sit here and act like her going up against Ronda Rousey was just supposed to be like just completely irrelevant. No, Alexa Bliss should have brought on that bad attitude with her and be like, look, I don't care who you are. I don't care if she had the wits. She had the smarts. Remember, I forgot who she was fighting, where she pretty much pretended like her arm was out of place, and then she rolled her up for the pin or hit her with a DDT for the pin. Like, Alexa Bliss was a bad woman. Like, how we were seeing Roxanne Perez in NXT, you know, we kind of got that glimpse, you know, with Alexa Bliss, because I mean, even Alexa Bliss was talking about, so we all have, I forgot the sneak diss that she had against Roxanne Perez, but still, Alexa Bliss still was performing, and Alexa Bliss drew. You know, she was leading Marcel's for a reason. And so for Ronda Rousey to even go on and go that far, I thought was just a little childish. I don't care about her future in pro wrestling. She could go somewhere. She can 100% go somewhere. Look, I think I can squeeze 10 minutes into this here, because I do want to talk about Bully Ray, because Bully Ray, of course, has some comments about AEW as well. Bully Ray, of course, sees some bright spots in the AEW product, but it still feels like it's lost overall. So he did have a tweet. Hopefully it'll show the tweet here. No, it will not show the tweet here, but I'm pretty sure they will quote tweet it here. So he says, unfortunately, but AEW as a product is lost. There's certainly some bright spots, but as a company, it lacks a definitive direction. And it is what it is. A company owned and operated by a fan with lots of money. TK, good guy, good heart, not a good booker. And the boys know it. And on top of that, his booking is just ass. Booking is straight ass. 100%. 100%. I mean, you can't deny that. You can't deny that at all. Of course, it gets a mixed reaction. And of course, you gotta have Ricochet respond. You gotta have Ricochet respond. Of course, fans met his statement with a mixed response, some disagreeing. Since AEW was able to draw close to 20,000 fans at Forbidden Door, which was a solid pay-per-view, and of course 30,000 for All In Texas. Others agreed, stating Dynamite featured a lack of exciting stories, which I can agree with too. You know, both stories, both sides can be true. So AEW star Ricochet took the issue with Bully Ray remarks, responding that he 100% disagrees with you. Ricochet also said Bully's the boys comment, which is an ignorant thing to say. He responded to another fan claiming that Bully was just tearing a product down he doesn't like, just like most of the internet wrestling community. Taking things a step further, Ricochet said that he doesn't think the criticism of AEW is coming from a good place. He said he knows when someone is purposely being a dick for likes. So, yeah, that's what he's doing. That's what most of the IWC does. But that's what you do. So it's like, for him to even say that, that's what you do, brother. So it's like, brother, it's not even that. Come on now, Ricochet. Come on. You can't like you rage bait. You rage bait, and you see it on one side of the fence too, because you're on that side of the fence. You know, so we can't act shocked, you know, with Ricochet. We can't act shocked with little Ricochet here. But is Bully Ray wrong? I think he's coming on a little strong here. I think he could have been a little bit nicer here. Is AEW lost as a product? It's becoming lost. I do believe so. Yeah, like and by lost, I mean like it's a lot of times where you're watching a Dynamite and you're like, what are we doing here? Like, it's just like, what are we doing here? I mean, circling the bit yesterday, we were scrambling about the match card, you know, for their upcoming pay-per-view, for All Out, because a lot of it isn't really announced yet. And so for us to even, it's lost. That I think that perfectly describes lost there. But as a company, of course, lacks definitive direction. Yes. And there's certainly some bright spots, quote unquote talent. Yes. You're not lying there. It is what it is. A company owned and operated by a fan with lots of money. TK, good guy, good heart, not a good booker, and the boys know it. See, that's the thing. Even though I usually trash on Tony Khan's booking, I just think Tony Khan just needs help. Tony Khan needs somebody there to tell him no. Tony Khan and a lot of people there need somebody to tell them no. CM Punk was there to tell them no, and even when he said no and they did it anyway, he choked the guy out and got fired for it. You know, so it's like, even when you say no, like, you got to have somebody there that's going to say no. Somebody there that's going to put their foot down. Nobody there, there's not anybody there that I think does that. And you see, and I hate it when you see the different tribalisms, especially with the WWE fans. When AJ Lee came back, oh, thank you, Jack Perry. Thank you, Tony Khan. Thank you. Like, well, let's not do that. Like, we're just being that's ignorant. And the reason why I say that is because, like, number one, it can happen on both sides of the fence. It can happen. It can happen on either or side. And we've seen it with Saraya. We've seen it with not necessarily Ruby Soho. Ruby Soho did get a great pop, when she arrived, but not necessarily Ruby Soho. But Bobby Lashley, we see great work being done, and when they show up, they still keep that same energy. They still keep the same big name. And some of them, like Bobby Lashley, they're still booked really good. And I do think that can be a testament to Tony Khan, or Tony Khan just keeping his fingerprints off of it. But still, like, excuse me. But it's just the fact that it is still lost. It is lost. And I don't think the boys know it. I just think the boys are getting paid. But you have guys that are so-and-so, quote-unquote, EVPs that are just, that's all they are. They're just a title. There is no power in the EVPs. They're just there to make big money, go home, and live their best life. Merch is freaking atrocious in AEW. I wish they fixed that. I wish there's no reason. When I came on here complaining before an AEW event a couple months ago, I was like, yeah, I can't believe I walked past a belt that was $800. I walked past an AEW belt that was $800. Why would I buy that? Why would I spend money for that? And then, of course, I went there the very next time. It was $950. I'm paying $1,000 for an AEW belt. I'm getting up out of here. Y'all, like, there's so much wrong with AEW. And the problem is they want to keep telling you how great they are. And that's one of the biggest problems we have. I don't think Bully Ray is 100% wrong. I just think that there's a bunch of AEW fans and AEW lovers that will tell you straight to your face that there is nothing wrong with this product, and it's us. That's the problem. We're just not wrestling fans, when that's not true. It can still be directionless. It can still be lost, and we can still be watching it because we still in support, and we're just waiting for it to get better. That's all it is. We're just waiting for it to get better, like it was in WWE. This podcast started because we kept talking trash about WWE to ourselves, and we were just like, WWE is so awful. It's not getting any better. Let's talk about it. It's like, let's talk about it. We were here when Sami Zayn got caught in the mousetrap, struggling to get out. We were there when The Miz was eaten by zombies. The Miz was eaten by zombies. So it's like, I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, like I will always bash AEW because I bash WWE. I bash the brakes out of WWE. So yes, I'm gonna keep that same energy with AEW, and until it gets better is when I'm gonna start giving it a whole lot of love, like I'm doing now with the WWE. I'm getting a whole lot of love because things started changing. Now they got forced to change things because of what happened with Vince McMahon, but yeah, things change. Triple H got put in the forefront. Shawn Michaels and NXT got put in the forefront. We started seeing a whole lot more, and things started getting a whole lot better. And so that's what I'm looking towards. That's what I see. I don't think Bully Ray is just completely wrong here. Of course, MJ, I was gonna show you MJF's tweet, but he said that he wasn't addressing Bully Ray. It wasn't addressed to Bully Ray at all. So I'm gonna just leave that it is. But honestly, I do think that Bully Ray, even though it did get a mixed reaction, if he didn't come off as hard and if he wasn't getting checked on WWE either, I definitely think it would have came off a little bit better. But I understand where he's coming from. We did close to 2 hours today. And by what I mean by 2 hours is, of course, the first stream had to leave a little bit early, but second stream I thought went really, really perfect. We had a really, really well. I know we talked an hour about Roman Reigns and why he isn't the GOAT. We had to go through the stats. We had to go through his history. We had to go through the pretty much the record and explain why he isn't the GOAT. And I wanted to explain in entirety. Like, I didn't mean to just break down his entire, his entire form. Like, I didn't mean to just break down him as a in totality. I just wanted to break down these past 3 years. And I think the past 3 years show you that him not being available, him not showing up, and him when he is showing up, telling you that he got a new contract and he's not going to be showing up for even a while longer, even after explaining to us that he is, years ago. I think that kind of was a huge smack in the face. Even if it was you turning heel and you playing it up as such, I do think there was a huge problem with your run, especially when C Fluid mentioned you have your family showing up every match. as well. Like there was a huge flaw there. And of course, your matches were boring. We couldn't find one great match of yours that was just completely amazing. That was just something that we completely thought was just incredible there. So that's my thought process on it. That was pretty much my thoughts there on it. We got the Bloodlines rules. Cody Rhodes defeats Roman Reigns. That was a 33-minute match. Jesus Christ. 33-minute match. But just even looking at it here, just even looking through the Roman Reigns wiki still, and winner take all, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns title change. Yeah. Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns. Yeah, we seen it all. We seen it all. But I don't want to get myself into a deeper rabbit hole because I can go back on and talk about it all day. But Roman Reigns himself, I don't think is the GOAT. I just really had to go through and break down not only his spear. Like we already talked about his spear. I don't even think his spear is top tier. Bars. You know, it's just like I don't think his spear is top tier at all. Now, would I give it a solid B? Yeah. You know, but if you want to put it up there with, you know, the Rhinos, if you want to put it up there with the likes of let me see. Edge was pretty fire until he started getting a little bit older. You know, well, no, I lied. It was one spear that he hit where he actually like messed up his neck, and I think that's pretty much was the turning point, was the shift, you know, in that situation. But honestly, do you guys think Roman Reigns is the GOAT? Do you guys fully believe that Roman Reigns is the GOAT? I actually remember what I was going to here. I remember what I was going to. It was the statement that this young gentleman said that he when I just believe he just absolutely cooked Roman Reigns. It was the first sentence that he put out there. To paraphrase a rather great Twitter comment, you don't get to be one of the GOATs when you sucked for a decade straight, started working part-time as soon as you got good. That's exactly what started working part-time as soon as he got good and still wasn't good enough. Trick Williams could be that guy. Shout out to C Fluid. Lou needs to be on the main roster. Yeah, he's one of the guys. He's getting that Roxanne Perez treatment. We're just looking at him like, why are you still here, brother? Why are you still here? When Roxanne Perez was in NXT, we were just staring at her like, look, you wrestled at main event a couple times. You wrestled on SmackDown. You wrestled on a PLE already. Why are you still here? You know, it's like, why are you still like Trick Williams? We are feeling the same way, brother. It's time for you to move on with the quickness. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Huge shout out to C Fluid. Shout out to Get Yo, Jordan Kirby. Of course, we had oh man, Kayla the GOAT as well. Spam Forum TikTok as well, sliding through, coming through in the forefront. Thank you guys so much for joining the stream. I'm sorry. I now got to test them out to see if it worked. Now I got to go back, hear them again, see if this actually played through and through. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll probably be back. Not even probably. I'm going to be back throughout the week. I might just see if I can go on Twitch later on as well. I just been getting the break speed off. I was playing college football, got the break speed off of me. I was struggling mightily. I might have to either go back to UFC, WWE 25. It's just nothing you could do new on there. There's nothing new you can do. I played GM mode. You know, I've had a season on my universe. You know, I've done so much on WWE 2K25, and I've played online. Just going on random online games. And I think my record says it. You know, my record's pretty nice. If I can, if I can brag a little bit. But that's one of the things that I'm looking at here in this situation. So I might either go back to college football. I might switch over to UFC 5, make another fighter and see if I can take over another division there in itself. But be on the lookout for the Twitch. I'm going to have a whole lot of fun with that. Shout out to C Fluid. Great stream as always. It's always great when you on here, my brother. I'm telling you, you wake all of us up. You wake all of us up. You hit us with not only some great questions, but you have some amazing takes as well. I think the stand up for John Moxley. I need Devin here too, so we got to get into a John Moxley debate too. I think I would love to talk to you about that as well. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.